In this episode, I want to talk to you about forgiveness. I have been reading this very healing and comforting book called Radical Compassion by Tara Brach. She defines forgiveness in her book, and her helpful definition is forgiving means letting go of the protective armor of blame and or hatred that encases your heart. She also points out a different definition that says forgiving means never putting anyone, including yourself, out of your heart. Another definition has it saying forgiveness is the compassion that arises when we've brought full presence to the suffering of hurt and wounds. So it sounds like there are just many ways for us to define forgiveness. I challenge you right now to just look within and see in your heart, in your mind, what comes up for you when you think of the word forgiveness, and what definition would you attach to it? Of course, she goes on to talk about forgiveness is really a process, that it's not something that happens quickly. It's not a one and done. That's my favorite phrase to say about healing, because forgiveness to me is all about healing, and because it's healing for you and maybe even for a relationship, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to repair anything or fix anything. So you're not trying to fix, you're just trying to move forward. And if you are stuck in unforgiveness, you are just that, you're stuck. And so being able to forgive and knowing that it's a process, you can encompass what comes with that, which can be healing, which could be peace of mind, which can be freeing, which could be liberating, which could be openness, which could be repairing your own heart, learning to trust yourself. It could be the learning, the lesson that you got from whatever situation transpired, or even just being able to be aware of the signs of, okay, now I know I don't want to be involved with someone who acts this way, or I no longer will tolerate this kind of behavior. So you set boundaries. So look at forgiveness as a tool to help you to learn more about yourself and grow into who you want to be, instead of looking at it as a way to amend a situation, how to let someone off the hook. It really isn't giving someone a pass to treat you badly. In the book, the author also asks as a reflection question: why do we hold so tightly to blame? Why do we align ourselves with, but it's that person's fault, or it's because of that person that I'm this way, or it's because of this situation that I'm this way? Or why do we tend to do that? It's not just you, it's not just someone else. It's all of us do it to some extent, whether it be towards a person or a situation or a system or an institution. We all kind of feel like that powerless, out of control at some point. There's nothing we can do. We don't want to accept the responsibility. We don't want to feel that pain or loss or grief that comes with what happened. We don't want to see the reality of not being able to trust our own mistakes and trust ourselves. So we want to blame someone else of why we can't make a different choice. She kind of lists different ways that forgiveness and blame may resonate with you, and why we might hold on to it. And it includes those things: feeling out of control, feeling afraid, feeling that if you don't blame someone else, then you have to accept that you're the one who's in the wrong. Wanting to avoid the hurt, not wanting to take responsibility, accepting, you would have to accept the pain or loss. You would have to accept that life just isn't fair sometimes. You may feel unlovable or unsafe. So she talks about why forgiveness is so difficult for us. I also attribute unforgiveness as a way of further suffering. When we don't forgive, we are choosing to suffer more. And I've heard Dr. Gabor Mate, I've heard him even talk about, like, just when we're holding on to that, we're suffering, and the suffering causes more suffering. So the longer you hold on to the unforgiveness, and I rather deal with the unforgiveness than to forgive, you're choosing to suffer. You're choosing to stay in that place. And I remember listening to Dr. Tima Bryant, and she was saying, sometimes when we say, oh, I choose not to even deal with it, I don't want to have the confrontation because I want to keep the peace. But I love her quote of, whose peace are you keeping? Because you're still wrestling with it inside. You're not speaking on it. You may not say anything. You're not confronting it and addressing it, but you're still dealing with it every day. Every time you're triggered, every time it comes up, it's not going away until you address it. And I think that's why it's very important for us to learn more about, what does forgiveness mean? What does it mean to us? How can we use that as a tool to evolve, to become a better person? Because I really do believe that we want to become better people every day. And in our heart, we want to. It's just the actions that come with that, the thoughts, the emotions we have to face in order to make that move is difficult. Sometimes we are so afraid that it's going to hurt more than the actual situation itself, just to recall the memories of the emotions and thoughts and behaviors you might have felt at that time. So, especially if it's something that was reoccurring, like something maybe from a parent or from a sibling or from a long-term relationship. It's like you don't want to go there. You're just kind of like, I'm just going to block that out, put that in one of those closed doors in my mind and just never open it. But it lingers because when a familiar scent or a familiar comment or a familiar visual prompt or something kind of triggers your memory of that situation or that time, you immediately go to the back to that place. You have that smell, like all your five senses are alerted, and you remember how it feels. All these emotions just come flooding back. So it truly doesn't go away, but you have to learn how to deal with it. And so that's why I was reading the Radical Compassion book. I think it's very helpful for anyone who is looking for a way to deal with difficult emotions. And she goes through the process of rain. And I've talked about rain before in one of my other, in a previous video. So that may be something you may enjoy reviewing or even looking up elsewhere on the internet. But just to go over it and remind you, RAIN is an acronym for, number one, recognizing the situation and what emotions are coming up. A is for acknowledging those emotions. So you're not avoiding, you're not trying to avert them. You are actually saying, okay, sadness is here, anger is here, I'm feeling excited, I'm energetic based on what's going on. Whatever it is, you can acknowledge that this is happening, acknowledge what's going on, and then you investigate. What does it mean? What is it trying to tell me? So instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Why do I have to suffer? Why am I the victim again? You may ask yourself, what is this situation telling me? What is this emotion trying to tell me? What do I need to learn from this? What do I need to do different? And then the N is nurturing, and that's when you give yourself what you need. Maybe I need space. Maybe I need to tell that person how I'm feeling. Maybe I need to leave the situation for now and come back to it later. Maybe you need to just observe and see what's going on. Maybe you just need to let your feelings go through that cycle and move on until the next emotion comes up that you are able to deal with. So the RAIN process is there to nurture you and to support you. It allows space to forgive. And lastly, I just want to kind of go through the 3 stages of forgiveness that Tara Brach wrote in her book. She said that the process of forgiving has 3 stages: intending to forgive, making the U-turn with the RAIN process, and including a real other in your heart. And she talks about in her own practice how just being able to realize that I'm blaming people, I'm blaming others, I'm blaming everyone else, I'm questioning myself. That when you actually ask yourself 3 questions in those 3 stages of forgiveness, you can push through enough where you're not pushing through so that you can avoid, but you're pushing through so that you can process and be able to move on in a healthy way. The 3 questions that she has is, what is my deepest intention in this relationship? The next question is, what am I unwilling to feel, or what am I running away from inside of me? And the third and last question is, what is really true about this person? How might they be struggling? What matters most to them? And that's just another reminder of the compassion component of life, which we are all human. We have all had different experiences, and we don't all talk about those experiences. So even if you're having anger or issue with unforgiving feelings towards your spouse or towards a parent, just realize that they're human. And honestly, I don't care how many parenting books there are in the world. There's no parenting book that tells you everything to do, because everyone is different. Every child is different. What worked for one child is not going to work for every other child in that family. Everyone has a different perspective based on what year they came into the family, what birth order, what gender, and what experience, maybe health issues or mental health issues or behavioral issues they have. They're going to experience their childhood all differently. Same thing with a spouse. You may have had a great or terrible experience with a spouse, maybe for, several years, and then you move on and now it's different with that person, or they have a different relationship with someone else than they did with you because they have changed. Time does not stand still. Time keeps going. Time is on our side to the extent that we are allowed to change our minds. We are allowed to change if we want to. So that's our freedom of choice that God has gifted us to be able to do each and every day and moment of our lives. We hope that you have enjoyed this episode of Self-Care on just the definition of forgiveness and kind of processing that, and how you can bring RAIN, the tool, into your process. As always, be the best you that you can be, one positive step at a time. Peace.